Originally, this video was just going to be a gameplay video, but this game made me so mad that I'm changing the entire premise of the video to more of an essay video. Haunt is a Doors-inspired game that was released back in the summer of 2023, and I got introduced to it from my younger brother. He said he saw a video claiming, "This game's going to kill doors!" You know, the basic YouTube clickbait title. I thought, ooh, it couldn't hurt to try. I needed something for a video because, again, I'm uploading now. The more I played, though, the more disappointed I got.
Is it following you?
I don't know, maybe that's what I'm going to hide.
It is, yes.
I was in the bed! Oh, that's stupid. That's actually stupid. I'm just gonna have to go over my disappointment in this entire video. First off, we'll start with the... Haunt's gameplay is relatively the same as Doors. Walk until you make it to the end, but you can't see half the time because of how bad the lantern is, and the items barely spawn. Which is a bit annoying, but it would be fine if the game added some of its own features to make it stick out. Yes, it has Timmy, companion, but that little gremlin creature does nothing. Like, genuinely useless. I don't know why it's there. The houses you find in the zones are neat looking, but they require you to have a specific key or a lockpick to even open them up, and usually they have nothing inside. There's only two non-entities things that can even hurt you in the game, which is gas, that damages you if you're hidden for too long, so basically hide from doors, and the ropes, which have a similar mechanic to the snare from Doors, but instead you need a specific item to even get yourself out of, and you gotta play a difficult timing minigame while grabbing said item well upside down. Very fun, you know? And then there's the please donate booth feature, which in my opinion seems like it's just there to make the developer money. It's so unneeded. These are two genres of game that don't mix. It's like going into a horror game and then finding gacha. Like, what would you do? The only real original thing about this game is the boss rooms, which I think are done pretty well. One of them not as much as the others, but if I want to talk about those, I'm gonna have to talk about the... Now, I know I was just about to explain the bosses, but first I'd like to quickly talk about the basic entities, which there are only two of, which I find ridiculous. The first of them is the Raven. It's basically Rush. When it's about to show up, the lights start to flicker. If you're outside of its path, usually, like, you can just avoid dying to it, similar to how if you had Rush come at you in a tea room. And it shows up constantly in the 10 final rooms, just like Rush does in the garden rooms. The only difference is the fact that it's not an image of a spooky face, and it's the final enemy of room 80, chasing you down in a maze while you try to save Timmy. The second one is Rats, which is basically the Screech of this game. It's a tiny creature that if not dealt with will damage you, but the only way to deal with it is either by talking to Timmy or hiding from it, which I don't understand why hiding from it would be useful, you know? It's already on you, why would hiding from something that's already... You get the point. Now, I'm gonna go on to the bosses. The first one is the one I dislike the most, Skull. It is a figure ripoff. The only thing that makes it different is its design and its Super Saiyan mullet. It's a big blind creature made out of human body parts, just, you know, figures made out of flesh, and Skull, if you couldn't take a guess, is made out of bones. The room it's in has an extremely similar mechanic as the library room indoors, but instead of inputting a code after you find all the books, you need to place the runes you find around the room on 5 different pedestals. Skull is a bit buggy though. I'm gonna play a clip right now of it just freezing up after it killed Gavin. And it also can kill you as you're trying to hide. It's a relatively uninspired room, and I would not mind Skull never coming back as a character. Next up is Eye Gloom. It deals damage if you stare at it, which on its own I would have thought of it just being a cool mechanic, but paired up with its minions it has, and all the other entities in this game that copies Doors entities basically down to what they do. I easily noticed that this was just eyes from doors. It's just the eyes from doors. Yes, eye gloom looks different, but the tiny eyes it has, they look almost exactly the same. Now, even though eye gloom's concept is something that's not fully original to the game, I think the way of dealing with eye gloom is what I like about this second boss. You gotta shine lights at it while avoiding looking at the eyes, which I think was a good idea to go with it. I think they did well with eye gloom. I just think, the design for the smaller ones are a bit, on the nose of where they came up with the idea from. The third one, though, we have is Shadow. Now, I think this one is completely original. If anybody watching this wants to correct me, they can. You need to go around the room Shadow's in, finding valves and turning them to the correct numbers on the paper you find at a specific door. I don't know where it is, I never made it to there in the game. While you're doing that, Shadow will flash a warning on your screen before it starts chasing you. Now, this warning does look extremely similar to the warning that Halt has, but overall, it's a relatively interesting one. The final thing I can say about it, though, is its design reminds me of the Beast from Over the Garden Wall. It just looks cool. Finally, we're talking about Timmy. Even though Timmy is supposed to be a companion, Timmy does nothing. It's like, yeah, Timmy can help you out with a rat when that shows up like once or twice in a run. And that's all Timmy really does. Yes, Timmy can also give you like 5 pieces of gold randomly. The only other thing it really does is spout random lore, like, this is all my fault. What is your fault? We just met? You did not bring me down here. Timmy's design also isn't really the most creative. At first glance, it's like, ooh, this is interesting little creature. But you stare at its bug-eyed face for long enough, and you just notice that it's the El Gablino model with the ears and nose removed while giving it a Sans Undertale color scheme. I just dislike Timmy. I hate that little creature. Well, I'm not sure how long the entities part really took. We're now going to move on to the... Now, we're going to be doing a lightning round for this, because I didn't want to write out full descriptions for all the items, because they're boring, and I barely saw them. Timer goes in 3, 2, 1. Flashlight lights things up. Pepper speeds you up, just like the pills from Doors. Knife, a useless item that cuts you free from the rope. Lockpick, they work like lockpicks. Lantern lights things up, but worse. Health potion heals you. Batteries charges your flashlight. Astral potion heals you, but better. Also looks like a chug jug. Teddy bear, easy boss skips. Crowbar, lockpick, but better. Yeah, I'm lazy. Well, now that I'm done with that, it's finally time to move on to the game has promise, and I believe if the dev team, I don't know if it's a solo dev or a dev team, decides to, go for a chapter 2, I think it can do well, but it doesn't really build off of being inspired by Doors. It just kind of copies it. But I do have some suggestions for the game to make things more original and just kind of change up the gameplay loop so you're not walking in a straight line for an hour. First, give Timmy a use. He's meant to be a companion, but he doesn't really do anything. He just kind of sits there. You could make a puzzle room where, like, one of the boss rooms where Timmy doesn't get weirdly possessed and actually helps out. Second, it would be a good idea, in my opinion, to add more room variants. Because, like, come on. I think there's, like... We're not counting that the Robux booths are meant to get you to spend, your Robux. There's really nothing else you can do. So I think adding a bit more rooms can change up the gameplay. A simple puzzle room, a parkour room, or even secret rooms that you find hidden in regular rooms would be interesting and could make the gameplay more exciting. Third, don't make useless items. Having 5 different types of keys to open up each different variant of a house is annoying. Instead, try creating items that give buffs to players. Like, one thing I came up with is a shield that will protect the player from damage, but it will wear off after a short amount of time. So people will have incentive to use them, or people will have incentive to buy them, because, you know, you want people to use the please donate features at least. And fourth, add more entities. Again, spicing up the gameplay is important, so players don't get bored. I'm not going to come up with an entity idea because that's going to take up too much brain power, but I think, you know, they could do it. Having only 2 regular entities and then the boss entities that you barely come across makes the gameplay very sparse and forgettable. That's all I can think of, though. Yeah, if you want to play the game, I'll put it in the description. Genuinely, I had to take a day or two off to cool down. I gotta come up with a title for this now. Hope you enjoyed. Why did I rip off my skin? Me when I'm a skinwalker.